So Brian Goldberg, thanks for talking to Save Jersey.
Thanks, Matt.
I appreciate it. Where to begin? I guess the natural place to begin is for people to get to know you a little bit. Election day is still several months away, but the first thing that needs to happen is voters need to get to know you, know your story, and most importantly, understand why it is that you're running and what you hope to contribute. Absolutely. So maybe tell us a little bit about your background before you decided to wade into this primary.
Let's see, I'm a 40-year-old businessman. I live in West Orange, as you said, up north. I have 2 daughters, and right now I'm actually running my family's decorative concrete business.
Decorative concrete?
Yes.
Now, what separates concrete from decorative concrete for people that don't know?
So you know on the sidewalk outside of your office or down the street,
yeah,
it's plain and it's gray and it's boring. We do imprinting of it or polishing concrete or staining it or other artwork type of stuff. For pool decks, patios, on residential works, we do a lot of work in Atlantic City for the casinos. Mm-hmm. In Manhattan, we do restaurant floors and stuff like that. So everything's decorative, not just plain and boring.
Now, did you grow up in North Jersey?
I grew up actually in Central Jersey.
In Central Jersey, okay.
In Monmouth, and my business is actually located in Middlesex.
In Middlesex.
And we cover the whole state, so that's another thing. I'm like an inch deep and a mile wide kind of guy.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And now we know a little bit more about concrete, right?
And actually, right up the road from here, there's a water park where we did the whole water park over in West Berlin.
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah, right down the road there. That's only about 15, 20 minutes away, depending on traffic.
We got off the turnpike. I'm like, yeah, I know this.
You know this part of the world. Yeah. So you were involved in the decorative concrete business. You still are today.
I still am.
You're working hard. I'm assuming you probably have a decent amount of employees.
Actually, sadly enough, the economy's hit us pretty hard.
Okay, so it has hurt you guys, I would imagine.
I know what it's like. I know what it's like to be the typical person in New Jersey suffering under the economy that we're sort of living with right now.
How is that experience, being in the concrete business, being in a state like New Jersey that has high unemployment and was hit pretty hard by the recession, still hasn't completely dug out? How has that affected your view of public policy?
Well, I can tell you that we're holding back on hiring because we don't know about the future, and mostly because of things like Obamacare and regulations that are just really scary. They're affecting our customers. They're affecting us from growing. And as a sensible employer, when I want to hire someone for a leadership role, foreman or something like that, once I do that, then I can bring on 5 or 6 additional employees, but I need that leader first. The good leaders already have jobs. And I can't look someone in the eye and hire them and say, but I don't know what's going to be going on 3 months from now. We need to get the economy to a place where it's more stable, where people can appreciate, they have some idea what's going on.
So as a businessman, you definitely have seen firsthand how Obamacare has affected people.
Absolutely.
Not only in the employment context, but also in the employee context. And I personally think that's part of the problem. We weren't able to fight Obamacare effectively in the past as the GOP because it was abstract. Then people started to get it because they found out their insurance was going away.
Right.
Now, unfortunately, they're finding out about it because they're getting less hours at work or they're losing their job altogether.
Absolutely.
So I guess that one of your hopes is going to be that you can put kind of a tangible face on what the status quo is and why it's not good for New Jersey and what you could do differently.
Exactly.
Now, moving forward, though, campaigning against Obamacare, how do you plan to articulate in a way that New Jersey Republicans haven't been able to in the past, that we need to go in a different direction? Right now, national Republicans are talking about fixing it instead of repealing it, which is a little different than what the message was before. And obviously, New Jersey Republicans have talked about Obamacare in the past, but there hasn't been any success. What can you do differently?
So I think it all comes together with I call it my message of hope, that we're the party that believes people can and should and will succeed. And we tie that together, right? That if you believe that people can succeed, you also realize that then you can help them get a job. You have to take the obstacles out of the way. And that's sort of how the message comes back around to telling Obamacare is holding back jobs from being formed. If you believe that people can succeed, if you give them jobs, then you need to get the obstacles out of the way. Hence, we remove the obstacles of Obamacare, people get jobs, and they contribute to be part of society. That's what I hope to try to, you asked me how, I'm going to put a face on how I'm going to bring it together. That's sort of where I want to tie everything back to the same message. Bring our party together, too. I think that's one of the big problems we have. Our party somehow got branded as we're the ones who think people are lazy and don't want to work. I have a friend up in West Orange who's been out of work for 5 years. He hasn't had steady employment. Let me put it that way. He'll take any temp job, anything he can get. But he can't get steady employment. He's a guy with a college degree. He has 4 or 5 different IT certifications, and
he should be employable.
And he wants to work. He's not lazy. He doesn't want to sit home and get unemployment benefits. So certainly bringing it all back to that and that message. But yes, I think whether we repeal it, we fix it, we do things to it, the entire law was focused in the wrong direction, first of all. Tort reform is where we really need to start. You're an attorney, so certainly...
I won't take it personally.
But you can appreciate that that's a big part of it. And that's what's driving healthcare costs to go through the roof. Not health insurance. And there's another problem. It's the Affordable Care Act, right? And everybody calls it Obamacare.
Right.
But it's not about health care. It's about health insurance. And the whole idea is that, well, if we get enough young people to buy health insurance, then the pool will be lower, and so health insurance costs will go down. I still don't hear how that's going to bring health care costs. Yeah. So that's the other problem. We never follow in the political groups that we're in and other people are in. We don't talk about the issues really using proper definitions. If we start talking about health care, maybe we can get somewhere. But we're talking about health insurance. It's a distraction, and we took a situation where people were not insured, they had trouble affording health care, and now instead of saying we're going to help you afford health care, we're going to force you to buy health insurance so you have even less money to make those co-pays and the high deductibles that come along with it. So now you have to buy health insurance, and you're going to start with the lowest level if you have, you're being forced to buy something you didn't think you could afford before. Those low levels come with huge deductibles. My deductible went up to $6,000 a year. Yeah, it was basically...
That's more than some people, not New Jersey, but some people also were paying property taxes.
Right. Oh, it's
a huge amount of money.
It's a huge amount. I mean, and what happened was my health insurance provider, they basically forced me into this route by saying, look, we're going to charge you $1,000 more a month in a premium if you don't go with the high deductible plan. So I pay $12,000 more a year for premiums and have no deductible, or do I take the lower premium and get the $6,000 deductible? If I don't use it, at least I get to keep some of that money in my pocket. Of course, I went that way. And that's how they forced us to go down that road. Now, when you look at the Affordable Care Act and the policies people have to choose from, a lot of the policies have these huge deductibles. So now the person has less money in their pocket because they're paying for the premium they didn't want to pay for to begin with. Then they've got to pay out-of-pocket costs that they weren't expecting to pay. How is this making healthcare more affordable?
Certainly not.
Yeah. So.
Not here, and I'd imagine not the other 49 states.
No, I don't think so.
That's a great recitation of what's wrong with Obamacare, and you mentioned tort reform. But I do think that part of the problem the party suffered in the past when trying to combat this issue is the lack of, I don't want to say lack of solutions, because I don't think that's fair, because I think the GOP has great solutions, but lack of tangible, articulated action items that people can understand. I always think a great example of this, not in the healthcare context, but generally, was Newt Gingrich back in 1994. When he had the contract with America, and they were all conservative ideas, but it was a clearly delineated list of things that he thought that his new majority that he was trying to build could tackle almost immediately to try to make a difference. So if you were down there in the United States Senate right now trying to work with the Republicans on both sides of our party's divide to try to move our message forward, to try to get real reform that could actually result in affordable health care, what would you do? What would be the few things that you think we need to do in addition to tort reform?
So the other big thing I want to focus on, I come from an IT background, I'm very into technology. I think we need to focus on improvements that can bring down the cost by using technology. You incentivize people to go after technology, to invent, to do the research and the development. Happens to be good for New Jersey. We have a lot of friends that are in that field here in New Jersey as well. But I think that's a really good way to focus. And it then causes everything again. It cycles back to positive. It grows jobs, grows things along those lines. The economy grows when we're inventing, when we're producing, when we're doing the research. It's a new technology. So, and there's tons of room for improvement in that. If you've ever gone to the doctor recently, I was checking in at a doctor's office, and they had everything was on an iPad. That's great. I've also been to other doctors recently, and they're still using clipboards with 87 pieces of paper on it. Simple technology like that. When you get into the actual medical care, there's technology for actually producing the actual healthcare. Now, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know all the details on that. But certainly I know that there are huge advances that can be done in both medicine that we need to be focusing on that as well.
We spoke to Speaker Gingrich about that, I guess, back in November. It was October actually. He spoke about making all medical records digital and how much just that one advancement in medical technology would help save billions of dollars a year.
That's right.
For that industry.
And save a lot of trees too, you know?
And save a lot of trees too. There you go. We're being green.
That's great.
We're being green. That's the Obamacare issue. It's arguably the biggest obstacle right now facing the economy. We both agree on that. But there's other things too.
Sure.
What are some of the other tenets of your economic platform that you're going to talk to voters about in the coming months, and how you think they'll make their lives better and get them working again?
Reducing regulation in general. This same friend that I was talking about before, he mentioned that he had a company that he was talking with, and he said, we're going to keep you on file because we're at 48 employees now. And it's not just Obamacare. A lot of other regulations kick in when you hit that 50-employee limit. And I've experienced it. My company has shrunk, unfortunately, from the economy now, but at one point we were up there and we were hitting those numbers, and suddenly all these things were coming in. And you go from a company that has 48, 49 people, and you have a certain amount of administrative overhead.
Yeah.
And suddenly you're hit with this huge amount of extra work. Great, maybe you need to hire a new administrative person, but it certainly doesn't make you keen on going out and hiring another 10, skill workers, let's call them. So we need to do what we can to work back some of those regulations. I think we need to realize that things like, unfortunately, in New Jersey, we passed that minimum wage hike last year. You saw last week.
And I'm assuming you were opposed.
I was opposed to that. I love to talk about how, what was it, last fall, I think, the folks from McDonald's were going on strike. They wanted $15 an hour.
Yeah.
Do you know how you order a hamburger at McDonald's in Europe?
How do you order a
So, well, let me ask you, put it in this context. You ever go to like one of the convenience stores around here to order a sub, and now you do it on a touch screen?
Sure, Wawa.
Wawa.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know Wawa coffee right now. Yeah.
Well, I love Wawa. I didn't know this was so fair enough. I'm trying to be careful with that. But,
see, for me, Wawa being from South Jersey, it's a religion.
And I
so it's the same as wearing a cross on the front of my shirt or something like that. So don't worry about that.
There you go. Well, Wawa, perfect example.
Right.
You go in, you click, you got your sub. You don't talk to the person behind the counter. That's how you order a hamburger at McDonald's in Europe. So now, if the McDonald's owner here in America is faced with a guy getting $15 an hour, or paying, I don't know, let's say it's even $20,000 for a touchscreen interface, that is never going to call out sick, never going to complain that his girlfriend's car broke down, never going to have any of the other issues that come along with having to manage an employee. And it's a one-time investment, and now that's probably good for another 4 or 5 years at least before you need to do major upgrades. It's a no-brainer. So now instead of getting $15 an hour, that poor guy who thought he was trying to get himself a little more in his pocket is going to have no job with no money. So yes, I was opposed to the minimum wage hike. Also, if you saw the Congressional Budget Office last week, came out with a comment on President Obama passed, he was suggesting...
He might have tried it for all we know.
He's got a pen in the phone. So.
Exactly. So, year of action.
He was suggesting that we need to raise the minimum wage for federal laborers. And the CBO came out with a notice that this was going to cost 500,000 jobs. This is not an insignificant number. 500,000 jobs because of a minimum wage increase. It doesn't work, so we need to fight, and we need to keep things like that from being implemented as well. And that's where we'll be going. It goes the other way, right? You keep people employed. The guy at McDonald's, instead of getting replaced with a touchscreen, you keep money in his pocket. If it's not enough to survive on, I suggest that we have to find ways to help him move up the career ladder. But whatever he's earning, at least it goes back into the economy. If he's earning nothing, he's certainly not helping the economy at all.
Right, and I really like the way you articulated that. I do, because so few Republicans are willing to take it to the next step and actually try to change the narrative. What do I mean by that? So often we are so worried about being accused of insensitivity, or that we want people to starve or something. They just don't come out there with the facts and say, hey, listen, why do we have so many people on minimum wage right now? That's the problem. It was designed as a wage, which that you start at when you're trying to move up the chain. When I was in law school in the summers, I worked at a supermarket chain down here in South Jersey. I started at minimum wage.
There you go.
I worked my way up. I didn't stay there because I went and got my law degree, but it's for unskilled laborers. It's for people earning a second income.
Absolutely.
And then you don't stay on it. That's not the intention. And still most people don't. Right. But we have more people staying on it now than at any other time in modern American history because of this president's policy.
Right.
So we need to be able to articulate that. So hopefully you can. If you're one of the interesting things about your job, unlike a lot of the other candidates that come and visit with, say, Jersey and talk to us about the issues is if you're a United States Senator, you're going to get to deal with foreign policy.
That's right.
And there's certainly a lot going on right now. This administration's failures are well documented around the globe.
Absolutely.
We're less respected now than we ever were under the preceding president.
It's a shame. It's a shame. I believe America is exceptional. And I think we should be using our resources to promote democracy, freedom, and liberty around the world. So when we're taking a back seat or saying that we need to be hands off, it's definitely upsetting, to say the least.
It is, and it's counterproductive. And I think the fruits of that strategy are being taken off the tree and harvested right now in places like the Ukraine, where, for those of you who aren't following along, we have a dictator who is backed up by Vladimir Putin, who may be in the process of being disposed. The situation is a little bit murky at the moment.
Sure.
But while the Olympics are going on next door, we have this bloody clash in Kiev, the capital of the Ukraine. I'm part Ukrainian, so I feel, I mean, I'm not from the Ukraine, obviously, but, I have Ukrainian lineage, I have Ukrainian descendants of my family, and so, I've been paying attention to this very closely, because I remember dyeing Easter eggs with my grandma.
Okay.
Every year, it's a tradition for people from that part of the world that are, Eastern Orthodox Christian. It's a sad situation. It's one they've dealt with all too often in history because of their proximity to Russia and Russia's bellicose posture towards Eastern Europe. But clearly, Putin wouldn't be pressing this if he thought that there was a United States that was going to call him on his aggression and that there was going to be a penalty for his bad behavior. And we're seeing this over and over again. So if you're in the United States Senate, clearly you're only one of 100. And you're going to be a junior member, but you still have a voice and it'll be your responsibility to weigh on.
Absolutely.
What kind of different course for American foreign policy are you going to advocate in the United States Senate if you get there?
Sure. Well, I think I just said it. That we should be involved and we shouldn't be standing back and letting things go on. That we have a moral imperative. Want to even take it that far.
But do you think that's a matter of just saying it more vocally, or do you think it's also a matter of getting involved in other ways? Not necessarily troops. We're not going to go into the Ukraine. Sure. No one's advocating that. But
exactly. No, but it's not just about giving a speech. There has to be action, and whether it's behind the scenes actions or there's some right in your face action. We should be taking that and running with it. So we can't just talk about it. We can't just let it happen. We need to, like I said, be spreading democracy, freedom, and liberty, and supporting the people. However we can. There's an aspect of that as well. It's not just taking a position, but it's actually supporting the people that are promoting the values that we hold dear that make America what it is.
Right. So engagement, but let the situation dictate. More of a Reagan-esque approach than what we've had in recent years. Exactly. Which is kind of this run in and then think about it later.
Yeah, which doesn't really work.
Kind of strategy. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Ask the good people down in Libya and Syria how easily that goes. Something else, obviously, that touches on economics and foreign policy is trade, right? And we know the president has been dragging his feet on quite a few free trade agreements. The guy doesn't seem to like the free market, period, whether it's operating in the United States or globally. For whatever reason, he's got this antagonism. Part of it's because of his relationship with some of these very powerful labor interests. Sure. But some of it's clearly related to his ideology. Is that something that you would focus on if you're in the United States Senate, advocating for free trade and trying to strengthen our relationship with allies?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and if you actually take a look at it, it works in remarkable ways. Look at what's going on in China. Mm-hmm. A lot of jobs are starting to come back here because they're starting to get a taste of what middle-class living is like, and they're starting to demand higher wages. And then once the wages start going up, and you add in all the factors of transportation, and it's amazing. A lot of the raw materials they use there actually come from here. So we ship the raw materials, they make something out of it, then ship it back here. Just building it here is a lot more, less expensive, and so it gives us an opportunity to grow jobs here, even by allowing freedom of trade with countries like that. So certainly I'm a proponent of trade. I'm a proponent of capitalist answers to things. As a businessman here in America, it's very upsetting when you see anti-capitalist forces running their let's call them tests and projects and things that don't seem to work out. And so
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So
tinkering with people's lives and people's pocketbooks.
It's horrible, exactly. Yeah. And people's lives are at stake. They are forced into situations that are just reprehensible, and we can do something about that by promoting, I guess, I'll say again, our values, the values, or at least my values, the values that I hold dear, breeds success, that liberty and freedom are paramount. You combine those things, and that's why America. That's where we got to where we were. And have we taken a few steps back? Maybe. And we need to take those steps back forward again.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. We've definitely taken some steps back under the current regime. And I don't think the current, and I use that very decisively, not because I think that Barack Obama is the most evil man that's ever walked the face of the earth, but I mean, he's certainly a guy that has a very casual attitude towards democracy. If he feels that he needs to do a certain act, even if it's not unconstitutional, to advance his ideology, he's willing to do it. And right now, our current federal delegation doesn't seem to really want to do too much about it, other than a couple of the Republicans that are in it. One of those aider and abettors that's down there in Washington right now is Cory Booker, who is basically a President Obama clone when it comes to his ideology and his approach to governance. I think he spends most of his time tweeting. But when he's not tweeting...
I'm still trying to figure out Twitter because it goes there's so much... And you look at his Twitter feed, and I think that's all he does all day.
Well, right. And usually when people come in here, Brian, I lecture them because they're Republican, conservative politicians, and I want them to do well. And I say, listen, you need to understand social media and engross yourself in it, learn how to use it more effectively, and that's all true. However, Cory Booker's taken it to an unhealthy extreme.
I agree.
I read the other day, he was on his Twitter page, and some girl who's in college wrote to him via Twitter that I should be paying attention to my stats class, but instead I'm reading Cory Booker's tweets. And he responded to her and said, oh no, pay attention to your lessons. But I'm thinking, wow, if that's not right there, a beautiful little example of what's wrong with our economy in general.
I agree.
People sitting there reading Cory Booker's tweets instead of paying attention to stats class.
What you need have been doing instead of paying attention to her tweet to respond to.
Yeah, it's not like the Ukraine's on fire or our economy's in the crap or anything like that. But so long story short, I was going to ask you what your assessment was of what kind of job he's done so far in Washington. We already pretty much know where we're both coming from, but let me ask him more specifically. What do you think he's done poorly?
I don't think he's done anything.
He has done anything?
It's, as far as I can tell.
It's a crime of omission.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's been his entire career.
Mm-hmm.
When he was the mayor of Newark, a lot of things went by where he just sat by and didn't do much.
Yeah.
We were talking earlier about the watershed. Right?
There's
this huge scandal going on up there.
We just got a report from the New Jersey Controller's Office, which usually does some great work, especially when Matt Boxer was there. Now they have new leadership, but they issued a report. For those of our viewers who've been following along but don't know all the details, we found out that Cory Booker was part of this reform that brought about this particular watershed organization. However, there's still all types of alleged corruption going on, and Cory Booker was barely engaged.
Right. He was supposed to use the ex officio member, I believe, of the commission that he created, and he was supposed to, that was his oversight. When he said, how are you going to have oversight? I'm a member of the commission, I'm going to be there, I'm going to go to, and I believe they found that he didn't attend any or most of the meetings.
He was an absentee mayor.
So
when he was on Oprah and flying out to the West Coast to raise money.
Exactly. So it's very interesting that that's been his career. He seems to be doing the same thing in Washington. He looks, unfortunately our party, we're a little bit of a, we've had some issues here in New Jersey of late, so I think he's looking like he's going to get a free pass. So he's just thinking, I'm just going to hang out here and see when he gets to get moved up. That's what he's really looking at. He's just trying to lay low, and hopefully he thinks for his sake, but not hopefully for my sake, or in general for the country's sake, should he move up and beyond the Senate. But I think that's his plan. His plan is he's going to lay low, he's not going to do much, and hopefully he'll get tapped for either a VP or down the line. Maybe even a presidential one.
Getting indigestion now. I don't know why.
But I really think that's his plan. I think that's what he said. Hey, look, I talked to people who said his plan to run and become a U.S. senator is 18 years old.
Yeah, sure.
When he was in law school, and he went to Yale, very prestigious university. I'm sure you went to law school.
I did, not to Yale.
Not to Yale.
But I still have some paper hanging on the wall.
But wherever you went, I'm sure it wasn't easy, right?
No, it wasn't. Rutgers gave me a run for my money, sure.
And I'm sure Yale is you're not coasting by either. So I don't know if you know that he established his residency in Newark while he was still in law school. Supposedly he commuted. So while doing the hard work of going to Yale Law, he was commuting 2.5 hours from Newark to New Haven every day. That way, when he graduated, he was able to immediately run for the city council in Newark.
Naked ambition.
He didn't have to wait. So that's it. So is this part of his plan? Did it go beyond the Senate? Did it go to to the White House or something like that? Possibly. And right now, what has he been doing? I challenge you to show me. I haven't seen anything.
I mean, I have about 10,000 tweets I could show.
Yeah, no, right. So yeah, but as far as legislation,
out.
I think he gave one speech on the Senate floor finally.
Unemployment benefits.
Yeah.
Hasn't proposed anything to get people back to work.
Which is great. Right. He went down to Bridgeton. I love to talk about this when I'm on the road. That he went down to Bridgeton and he talked about how he's supporting the extension of unemployment benefits. Thankfully, wiser heads prevailed, and we were able to vote that down. But he's talking about this, and I'm like, are you crazy? I don't want to extend unemployment benefits. I want to use the finite resources that we have to help people get jobs. Do things we talked about before.
Yeah.
To cut the regulations. To how about increasing training programs, things along those lines, so that people who are needing to shift gears because their jobs are being outsourced. In a place like Bridgeton, used to be, I think, I was told, the glass factory was a huge industry down there, and that's closed up. So now we need to do something to train these people to do something else. His plan is, no, we're just going to pay you to sit home and do nothing.
And not that he was my favorite president in the world, but just to show you how far the Democrat Party's fallen. I mean, that's the kind of things that Bill Clinton talked about when he ran in 1992.
Right.
He didn't do all of it. Some of it happened when the Republican Congress came in. But Democrats have gone from at least pretending to care about some of these issues to not even trying anymore. You're right. Just, hey, we're just going to give you more examples of way we're going to spend money.
Exactly.
And not propose any real solutions to actually find a way for people to pay more taxes.
And
I was having opportunity.
I was thinking about this the other day. So a couple years ago, the Occupy movement had everything, and they're against the 1%. But if you think about it, the system we're growing towards is, okay, if you keep taking from the 1%, if that's your excuse that we're just going to take from there, eventually there's no one left to take from. You're going to just grow the wealth of the 1% because everybody else will be pulled out of that picture, and that doesn't work. You need to have the base of people. So yes, when someone falls on a temporary situation of hard times, we should help them out as a society. That's fine. There are also private ways to do that as well. The government doesn't have to be the only answer for that type of thing. But those types of opportunities to provide people with temporary assistance if they need it, things like that, who's going to fund it down the line if we're all sitting home on unemployment?
No, you're right. I think as Republicans too often don't articulate again. I think that's really a good point. We don't want people to starve.
And people
we are not anarchists. If a father of four is sitting at home and he can't work, or a single mother and they have surgery and they can't work, I am fine supporting them. I'm fine with it. At least for the amount of time it takes to get them back on their feet. But that's not what we're talking about anymore. The amount of people that are on SSD and have been receiving unemployment benefits for 2 years, notwithstanding the current decision not to have an extension, it's unreal. It really is, and it's draining the economy, and it's not good for anybody, including the people that are receiving those benefits.
That's right. Somehow our party got branded as the people who think that everybody's lazy and doesn't want to work. But it's the exact opposite. We believe people want to take. There's a sense. We know that there's a sense of pride in taking care of your own. We know there's a sense of pride of doing a job well.
Sure.
And I'm going to take my message right into Newark, right over here into Camden, and I'm going to find the people and say, I want you to work because I know you want to work. I know you do. They need someone to finally tell them that, because our opponents are actually telling them, I want you to stay home. I'm going to give you unemployment to stay home. And that's just absolutely amazing. That's what they can then turn around and paint us the completely opposite way of my actual position, the way that we actually stand for. No, we're the party that believes that people can succeed. We're the party of optimists. We're the party of Martin Luther King Jr., for heaven's sake.
We are. That's true. That's absolutely true. But that's what they do anyway. It's all about negativity. Something that I know that's going to be thrown your way, because they always do. When they can't defeat us in the economic issues, what they've done as of late is they've accused us of declaring a war on women. All right, they haven't been able to defeat us on the pocketbook stuff. So now they're going to say that we want to come into everybody's bedrooms and monitor every single aspect of their lives. I haven't even got to the social issues with you yet. I know a lot of this campaign is going to orient itself around the economic issues that are pressing. But just generally, what is your approach to those issues, and how do you propose that you will, as a candidate, rebuff these charges from the Democrats that are going to attack you, especially if you get close? You know they will, saying that Brian Goldberg wants to invade your privacy.
So the simple answer is, first of all, you're right about focusing on the economy, because that's what I think really matters the most to the people. Once you have a job, and you're working, then you can worry about everything else.
It's true.
That's my take on it, and so I want to focus on that. So yes, but the issues are going to come up, and so no, I think it goes back to thinking that people will succeed. I also think people will make the right choices. I think if we present them with options and we present them with realistic information, that people will tend to make the right choices. That's another thing that we get painted very, very badly. Our opponents think that people are going to make horrible choices, and they actually are the ones who want to tell people, you need to do this, you need to do that. And what are these silly examples we can talk about where Mayor Bloomberg and his things with the soda and the trans fats and things like that going on in New York City. And just to be clear, he wasn't a Republican when he actually did that. He changed back to being an independent. So
yes.
We can thankfully dissociate ourselves from him at this point.
Easily.
Yeah, at least by policy, for sure. So no, I think that people given the right information, given the right options, and bring back a little bit of sense of shame into this world, that people will actually make the right decisions. I mean, that goes back to the thing too. I told you I'm going to bring it back to the jobs and the economy.
Yeah.
But
I'd expect nothing less.
But that's where that comes from too. There's folks who just have no sense of shame.
Yeah.
And if you look them in the eye, I know that you want to work, and they're going to look me back in the eye and say, no, I don't. I'm not going to bother trying to convince that person. But most of the people, and I know this for sure, want to work. They want to help. They want to do the right thing. And so it's just like that with almost every other thing out there, as far as I'm concerned. Give the right information. Give people the ability to make a decision, and most people will make good, solid decisions. And I think we're the party that believes that people will. And do we want to be in everybody's bedroom? No. I don't think we want to be in everybody's bedroom. I mean, this is a way of dancing around probably the hot button on this whole thing is abortion.
Sure.
And I'll come right out and say I'm anti-abortion. That's how I define myself. People are you pro-life or pro-choice? I'm anti-abortion. What the heck does that mean? Well, I'm staunchly pro-life. We had a click. Did we do something?
Oh, no, don't worry about that. That's just my backup. We don't have to worry about that.
Okay.
I have a dictaphone, people, and I use that to record and have a backup, but this is recording fine. So,
Okay.
No, you're in no danger.
We're in no danger.
You're in no danger.
Okay. So I am firmly and staunchly pro-life in terms of my personal convictions. I have 2 daughters. I will raise them in a household where they will learn that that's the way to be. Anybody who ever would ask me my opinion or ask for my counsel or would allow me to counsel them, I would explain the reasons to be pro-life and to support the unborn child, and that there are options if you can't afford or you're not ready to be a mother or for other things. There are adoption. There are other ways to deal with this rather than abortion. That said, the reason I use anti-abortion rather than coming out and saying directly I'm pro-life is that I don't have the right parts to tell women that they can't make that decision. And I think that it's up to women to make that choice. So I will allow them to make the choice, but hopefully I can influence that choice by presenting the alternatives, the options, and making it clear. So I think that's another problem we have, that we get boiled down to a policy perspective versus your personal perspective. My personal perspective is certainly pro-life, I would not promote federal funding.
Well, that was the next question I asked you. Would you support federal funding?
So I wouldn't support federal funding because I think that's a big problem. You can't take people, everybody pays into the system, and people who have a moral objection to a situation to use their money to promote something that they are morally opposed to. Look at Planned Parenthood. They bring this on themselves. If they divest their abortion practices from the wonderful things they do for the woman's health in the other parts of women's health, then I'd be happy to support the other parts. Until they divest it, though, they bring it on themselves. They want to combine.
I won't argue with you there.
They want to bring it. They want to do both. Then they have to pay the consequences and pay for it, right? Literally. So no. So I definitely do not support spending public funds for supporting abortion, but I draw the line at criminalizing it, and I would not go so far.
Now, what do you say then to someone like me who has a different take than you on this issue? Because I definitely support making it illegal. Who says, well, it's not about a woman's body. We have no problem if a grown woman wants to use contraception or whatever else you want to do on your own time with your own dime, which I think is a general good rule for just about anything. But that it's an individual life. It's not the same thing as a woman making a decision to tattoo her arm or cut off her own leg.
Right,
it's a unique human being that deserves constitutional protections.
So that's where I believe that, but I also allow the attitude that they don't believe that. They look at it differently, and it's our job to convince them of that, so that they won't go forward with what they're allowed to do. Just because something is legal doesn't mean you should do it. And
I'll agree with you there.
And so I think that's where we have to. I think that's where we have to come with this, because that's the only way we can ever win this war, and that's what it is, right? But as long as we keep coming at it from two different perspectives and dancing around this middle ground, we're never going to get anywhere. And so we'll get states that keep it legal and support public funding and promote it. They promote, and there are states where they promote it as a contraceptive choice, which is just important. We need to stop that from happening, and I think we have to have a reasonable conversation about it, and that's the position I try to take.
Unlike Cory Booker, who took "We're Safe"
right
out of the Democratic platform at the convention, which is just, again, something that even the Clinton era Democrats would have thought was insane.
Right.
One other big domestic issue I have to ask you about, because a ton of our readers follow along with this stuff, the Second Amendment.
Oh, sure.
Always a hot issue at the national level. But right now in New Jersey, there's a big debate going on at the state level about additional gun control measures. We're already a state with among the most gun regulations.
I think I've seen it cited as the most gun regulated.
Us in Connecticut, New York are always in a horse race.
New York, according to Governor Cuomo, if you want to have a gun, you're not even welcome. So.
Well, that's exactly right. I wish, any conservatives in New York that are watching this, if you want to move to New Jersey.
Vote for me, that's great. I'd love to have you.
We got Christy, we got Brian, we're at least ahead of New York here. Do you think New Jersey needs more gun control regulations?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
So I love...
A bunch of people watching this just went...
Yeah. So I'll tell you, when I'm on the campaign trail, I love to explain that I am a huge supporter of the Second Amendment. And I love to add this caveat because it keeps me from being attackable from the left. Mm-hmm. Not only have I never fired a gun in my entire life, I've never actually held a real gun in my life. Mm-hmm. Yet I come at this from a point of view of understanding why the Second Amendment needs to be protected. Mm-hmm. So it's not because I'm a hunter and I'm afraid you're going to come and take my gun away and not allow me to hunt. It's not because I want to just put guns in everybody's hands and I think that, that's the solution. No, it's because gun control doesn't work. Mm-hmm. Look what has happened in places like the two biggest, most recent events, Sandy Hook and Aurora. Mm-hmm. Sandy Hook, Connecticut, like you just said, has some of the strictest gun control laws, and yet he still got guns. He was mentally unstable. He still was able to get the guns and still commit the atrocities. In Aurora, what I've been told is that the shooter actually went past two other movie theaters that had a carry program that you were allowed to carry in the other two movie theaters.
That's correct.
He went to the third theater that had the rule no carry. Mm-hmm. He specifically went to the one that had the gun control rule in place, and that's where he committed his atrocity. So gun control doesn't work. Look at Chicago, right? It doesn't work. When Senator Booker was the mayor of Newark, he was a big proponent of gun buybacks. I think those are even more ridiculous because now you're taking the criminal and saying, "Oh, by the way, here's some money. Go buy a better gun."
Oh yeah.
So what does gun control tend to do? By definition, it makes gun owners criminals. By definition, right? If the only people who can have a gun, if they're illegal, are illegals, then you're having a gun illegal. So, I'm not a supporter of that. I'm a huge fan of the Second Amendment. We need to promote that, and I'll be a staunch defender.
Okay, great. Yeah, that'll make a lot of our readers very happy. We have a lot of Second Amendment supporters out there. And I've only disagreed with you on about one thing. We've been talking for about 30 minutes. That's not too bad.
I would have one last
That's not too bad.
I was up in Mount Olive last week, and I was at their Republican club talking, and I brought this up about guns, and I haven't found. Like I said, we're going to take you to the gun club, and we're going to go shooting. I said, not till after the election.
That's right. And that's probably a good idea. You don't want to pull a Dick Cheney, right? It's not a bad idea. We've gotten a great little introduction here to where you are on the issues. You definitely strike me as someone who's a strong fiscal conservative. Definitely supported the Second Amendment, individual liberty. You and I will fight about Roe v. Wade over a coffee or a beer at some point in the near future. But I'm sure readers are liking most of what they're hearing.
I hope so.
What separates you from the primary pack? Now, I know it's still evolving,
sure,
But it's not too long now in the future where we're going to have most of our conventions at the county level. Where Republicans are going to get together, decide who they want to endorse, give the county lines to. And primary day will be here before you know it. Sunny days like this remind us that spring's right around the corner.
Sure.
Why should they support you over anyone else?
So I'll take the very first simple one that, well, I'm what's Ronald Reagan's 11th commandment, right? Never talk bad about other Republicans. So I'm going to dance around a little bit, but I'll say
it's the most often forgotten thing.
I'll put it in terms of myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the true Republican in the field. I've never supported or run as a libertarian. I've never supported or run as an independent. I've never supported or run on the conservative party line. I'm not responsible for getting Clifford Case out of the United States Senate. We'll be a little more direct on that one.
But when you go after your opponents with a smile,
that's it. And it's not just that. I'm all about building the party, right? If you've been listening to this message of hope, I want to go and I want to build our party.
And we're having some troubles in New Jersey right now as far as party building. We are.
My supporters are out with their petition forms trying to get petition signatures across the state. We actually carry the change of party affiliation form with us. So that when someone comes up and says, I'm an independent or I'm a Democrat, I like what you're saying, but I can't sign that. Guess what? Now you can fill out this form. Now you're a Republican and you can sign it.
Yeah.
So I'm about building the party. I've actually been a big party supporter in the past. On the grassroots level, I've done things like I've done the phone banking. I've gone door to door for Republican candidates. I was the treasurer for a freeholder candidate up in Essex County, where we've got a 9-0 freeholder board. So
were you always a registered Republican?
I've always been since I voted in my first primary. Before that, I was never registered as anything else. But
not that that's required for me. I mean, I know my father, who's one of the best conservatives I know, he was a Democrat. He became a Reagan Republican.
Listen, I grew up
like a lot of people.
I grew up in a Democrat household, and now they're all Republicans. Talk about growing the party, right? That's what it's about. I'm about growing our party, about spreading this message that we are the party believe in people, we believe it can succeed, a positive message. I like to use the term that I'm relentlessly positive. It takes a lot to be
and I can agree with you there. Absolutely.
So
I think it's important.
That's what we need.
Too often we deal with a scout, and I think that guys like you, smart guys, principled guys, whether you agree with someone or not, you care about the substance. You vote on the basis of the issues. But let's be honest, for a lot of people, it's not they don't care about the issues, but if you don't market your product well, they're not even going to look at it on the shelf. They're just going to leave it there. And I mean, that's my personal opinion.
No,
that's what a lot of Republicans forget, or they trivialize. They don't assign enough importance to it.
That's it. So that's the main things. That's my mission. Obviously, I want to win. I want to make Cory Booker one and done. That's my little tagline for him. We'll make him one and done. And I want to grow the party. So I don't know that any of my opponents want to do that. I don't think that they really have the messaging to get out there and do it, which has been our party's biggest problem. We all tried to debrief after the 2012 elections, and that's it. That's what came out. That we didn't message. We didn't message well for all the reasons I don't talk about. So hopefully my message is one that will carry that, we need money, we need outlets like this to help carry the message as well.
Running against celebrity is not cheap.
That's it. That's what it's all about. So beyond that, I think that I have a realistic chance, if there's any, of beating Cory Booker. Right? It might be small, might be slim, because he's a celebrity, because he's an incumbent, because of all those, he's got the money already. All those reasons. If anybody can beat him, I think I can. I don't think the other guys really stand a chance. And we want to pick someone in our primary that has a chance, right? Whether it's a long shot, a favored shot, or something along those lines. We need a person who at least has a chance to go up against.
I'm with William F. Buckley. Not all of my readership agrees with me, but I'm about the most electable conservative. So when I vote in this primary and I vote in other primaries, that's what I'm going to be looking for.
And hopefully I've made the case that not only am I the most electable, but I'm also most aligned with our party.
It's going to play out in the next couple months, and I'm going to be excited to watch it. And I know you're looking forward to it.
It is. It's going to be fun.
How can people get in touch with you if they want to help your campaign?
Sure. Well, the easiest way is our website. Let's see. It's Goldberg2014.com.
And we'll post a link.
Okay.
When we put this article.
We're on Facebook. Please come over, like our Facebook page, which also is facebook.com/Goldberg2014. We're on Twitter. I don't tweet as much as Cory Booker, so you don't have to be worried about getting flooded like that, but it's @Brian4NJ. I think we're actually a follower of the State Jersey blog, and
I hope so.
I hope so. Hopefully you'll see some of those tweets going by that way. And you can actually, from there, you can get our email and reach out via email if you want. we're traveling around the state, going to lots of municipal meetings, county meetings, organizations that are not directly Republican clubs, but are related organizations. So take a look at our calendar on our website or on Facebook and come out and meet us. That's and I say us because I actually have a team and we're working together. That's another thing that separates me from some of my opponents who are running around doing it on their own. I don't know how in the world they're doing it. I have a great staff that's working with me right now. We're looking for volunteers to keep growing that. So come on, join. Let's go.
Engage, folks.
That's
Engage. Get involved in this primary one way or the other because it's extremely important. Cory Booker needs to be retired.
One and done.
I mean, although I always feel kind of conflicted because Cory Booker is great for me to write about.
Okay.
As a blogger, but not nearly great enough to write about that I wouldn't want a Republican in that seat. Good. Believe me, I'd love to go down there and be in the balcony when a Republican gets inaugurated next year.
That's right.
So here's hoping it happens, and we wish you the best of luck in the primary. And we really are thankful that you stopped by today, Brian.
Thank you.
And we look forward to following the campaign. Keep us in the loop.
You
check in with us as we progress.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As a matter of fact, Save Jerseys, where the whole idea of my candidacy got through.
Check this out.
Right? Matthew Gilson
that's true.
wrote about me testing the waters back in December.
That is true. That's right. We did report on it first.
Although I will mention, I neglected to bring this up in our little interview, that last summer, that's another difference between me and the other candidates. I want Cory Booker out so much, I tried to run last summer.
You tried to run last summer?
In the special election.
In a special election.
I didn't have a base of support yet, enough to get there, but it took me about 3 days to decide to run. And after 3 days, decided to do it. I had 3 days to collect signatures. I got 600 signatures in 3 days. Very proud of that. It wasn't enough to get on the ballot.
It's not too shabby.
But I'm pretty proud of that. And I look at my opponents and I say, if you don't want Cory Booker to be our senator, where were you last summer? Because I'm the only one who actually even tried to run.
Yeah, and God knows it's going to be a fight.
It's going to be a fight.
I'm looking forward to watching you fight it.
All right.
Thanks so much, Brian.
Thank you. This has been great.
I appreciate it.